Tiger fans, it's time for a review of the round 15 game against the Bulldogs, and it wasn't a pretty game, it must be said, losing 21-9, 135 to 8-8-56 by 79 points at Marvel Stadium yesterday. I suppose we were kind of hoping that we might have learnt a few things and changed a few things from the Swans game from pre-bye, but it sort of looks like we didn't really change too much at all, and yeah, wasn't a great day all around. But before we take a deep dive and look into the review side of things, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to the channel. We really appreciate all love and support. We're all going through this roller coaster of emotions together. But on to the game. The first thing I want to talk about was my severe dislike of making Jasper Elga sub. And that's not because I've had a big voice of wanting him to play for about 5 or 6 weeks, but just in general, having debutants play as sub just really shits me up the wall. I just don't think it's the right thing to do. I mean, I can understand it if you're like a top 4 or top 6 side and you're really pressing and playing some great footy and you want to just introduce someone gradually. I could fully understand in that scenario why you would maybe have a debutant as sub. But as a team who's 17th, not really primed to win a lot of games this year in a year that's experimenting is all okay. It just didn't sit right with me that making Jasper sub. And I saw the same kind of thing from a lot of comments on a lot of videos as well, that a lot of supporters weren't happy with it. But I think Uze said pre-game that they don't usually like to make debutants sub, but they did for this occasion. The only thing I can think of is if this was a late change. Like, I'm starting to think that maybe Jasper wasn't originally in the plans for the game, and then with the McAuliffe going down late in training, that maybe changed things. So maybe there just wasn't the provisions to have him starting on the ground, possibly. That might be the only out I can think of. But that aside, not a fan of it, because the moment I heard he was sub, and with how I thought the game was going to unfold, which ended up happening, essentially all that's happened is Jasper's been subbed on in a pointless time of the game where the confidence is zapped from the team. There's no mojo, there's no energy, there's no anything, and he's out there trying to impress and do his thing in a complete nothing environment and situation. And the chances are he's probably going to get dropped next week because he wasn't able to do anything of note because the game was done and dusted. That was my biggest issue. Like, if you're going to play him from the start when the game's fresh, the game's new. In that first quarter, we played really well. So what might have a Jasper Elga looked like in a first quarter when we were playing the football we want to play? Maybe he's on the end of those Camden McIntosh shots that went out in the full and he converts them to goals. Maybe he's on the end of the Steely Green one that was a miss that turns into a goal. And before you know, we could have kicked 4 goals in the first quarter and things pan out differently. We'll never know. But I just thought we missed a really good opportunity there to have him playing from the start of the game. Moving on from that, look, the result in its entirety, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's somewhat of an accurate reflection of where both teams are at, and it wasn't really too surprising in some ways. It's still very disappointing and it's annoying. But even when I did that final thoughts video, looking at all those major statistical categories like stoppages and clearances, inside 50s, amount of goals per game, all those main categories, the Bulldogs are in like the top 2 or 3 AFL, and we're in the bottom 2 or 3 AFL. So the differences were quite enormous, and it was only a matter of time before they were going to break us open, unfortunately. And I know they were sitting ninth. I don't think that's really an accurate reflection of where they are as a team. I know they've been missing quite a few players for a chunk of the year. They are a good side. They are, and I know they're still going to probably take a few bigger scalps, but they're going to be at the pointy end of the year, I reckon. So, yeah, look, it's somewhat accurate, but still very disheartening. I guess we look at the first quarter. We played a reasonably Richmondy type of football. We were pressuring, we were chasing, we were tackling, we were moving the ball well, we were switching it across the other side of the ground and getting it out the other side to really good effect. Our biggest issue was our conversion in front of goal. Camden McIntosh, like I said earlier, kicked those 2 out in the full from those left foot snaps. I think Jonty Fall might have missed one. I think Steely Green missed one. We were just really damaging ourselves. And I think if you listen to Uze's press conference, it sort of sounds like that the players just got really flat and disheartened after not taking those opportunities in the first quarter. So we kicked 1 goal 3, probably should have been 3 goals 1. And then, whatever happens from there, we'll never know. But it's definitely a big part of our game that we have to address is our accuracy in front of goal. Because the problem we've got now, we have been so inaccurate in the last 4 quarters or now 8 quarters of football that the pressure keeps mounting and mounting and mounting on the next person to take a set shot. And if they miss, it doubles again. So we need some type of circuit breaker, because if they're going to just lose their confidence on the back of a bad quarter inaccuracy, we're going to get trounced for most games for the rest of the year, which we don't want to happen. Obviously, in the last quarter, we fought it out okay. We kicked 5 goals in the last quarter after going goals for the middle 2 quarters, I think it was. So that was something, although I do acknowledge that it was probably an element of the Bulldogs taking the foot off the pedal as well in the last quarter, but we didn't turn our toes up either, to use an Uze phrase, and we actually still kept persisting and getting the ball moving. And Tom Lynch had a really strong last quarter, kicking some goals too, which was good to see. But there was just a lot of other issues throughout the game that were really alarming, like Sam Darcy. How we let him walk through their forward 50 unopposed multiple times has got me absolutely beat. Noah Bolter had an absolute stinker, I reckon. I don't think there's any other way to really phrase that. He had a nightmare, and I was really, really shocked that we persisted with Bolter on Darcy for as long as we did, which was pretty much the entire game, bar maybe a 1 minute period at the end. I thought Miller would have got swapped onto him for sure, who was showing a lot more competence in the game yesterday, who did a stellar job on Aaron Norton. But when they slow down some of those replays of some of Sam Darcy's marks and goals, the one in particular when Bolter and Darcy were on the half-forward line and Darcy's started to run back inside 50 and Bolter was just walking and then realised, I better actually chase him now. That kind of shit just doesn't sit well with supporters. And this is what we talk about when we mention we want to see effort. If we get beaten by better sides in multiple contests, that's okay. It is what it is. But when you can sort of see that efforts aren't being given to chase and track back arguably the best forward in the competition right now, that's a bit concerning. So I'm not sure if Bolter's head was fully in the game or not, or what was happening, but he had an absolute shocker. And then, you got someone like Jacob Blight, who is getting 23 touches and 14 marks a game, trying to bust his ass to crack into the side. So I don't know whether anything will happen in that space. But the midfield, I mean, yet again, we got like the clearance numbers were actually somewhat even, which was quite surprising. I really thought the clearance numbers were going to be a bit more skewed based on where the two teams are at. But clearances, we only lost by 10. I know it's still a loss, but it probably wasn't by as much as I thought. Centre clearances, we only lost by 1, and stoppage clearances were where they got us. But again, it's about the quality of the clearance, and we just had no quality of ball use going forward for bulk of the game. Again, the outside speed, which was something we spoke about on Monday night, was huge, and it was always a big factor with Ed Richards, Treloar, Bontempelli, Bailey Dale. All of those guys were pretty much able to waltz through the ground at will and do whatever they wanted. And we just couldn't keep up. We just couldn't track them down. So a lot of issues to work on. And you look at the midfield late in the game, and it's something we've spoken about for a while, but we still kept rolling the same unit in there time after time. The Taranto, Prestia, Hopper, Ross, and it wasn't working, right? We were 60 points down and it wasn't working, so why not change it up? And then we see Seth Campbell go into the midfield for a couple of bounces. I'm like, oh, awesome. How good's that? To then learn post-game in Uze's press conference that it wasn't a coach directive move. That was Seth taking it upon himself to inject himself into the game on the back of conversations he had with Uze and the club about maybe that being a thing going forward. But I just felt a bit flat that we still haven't been adventurous enough with our midfield rotations. Like the CBAs for Taranto and Hopper are through the roof, and it's a tremendous workload they're being tasked with. And I'll keep saying it, but when the game's done like that, that's your time to experiment. Roll the dice with a few players and see if we can get some energy back in there, because everyone was flat-footed. It was lackluster. It was ugly. And yeah, we need to find a way to change things up. And they've still got, 10 games or 9 games left to roll the dice on a few things. I'm hoping we see, and look, there might be some rationale behind why we do keep going with the same unit over and over. Maybe there is something, a method to the madness. I just don't see it at the moment, to be honest. I don't understand the purpose. The forwards, look, it played out exactly how I thought it was going to play out and how I said it would play out if we persisted with the two youngsters. Jonty Fall fought extremely hard. And again, I know he's going to be a good player for the future, but neither he or Sims were able to keep Rory Lobb anywhere near accountable enough, as Rory Lobb ends up taking 13 marks. Bailey Williams takes 15 marks. Caulfield takes 10 marks. We were just unable to keep their defence accountable whatsoever. So that makes Lynch's job a lot more difficult, and it pretty much nullifies, again, at least half of our inside 50s are being intercept marked, or half of our forward attacks. Sometimes it's chopped off just outside 50 on the wing, whatever it might be. And I still really, really think we have to change that balance. If we want to keep ourselves in games, if we aren't worried about that and just want to develop the players, fine, we keep doing what we're doing. But if we want to actually bring our small forwards into the game, give our tools a chance and try and reward the effort of the backline and midfields when we do transition the ball, we need another experienced player up there, a mature, physically experienced player like a McKelty Lafau, or roll the dice on the Jacob Light, like I've said in the past, just to mix it up and have a bit more of an aerial threat for us to help Lynch out, because I just can't see any way of us scoring any more goals with the way we're currently operating, which is, a little bit disappointing. Other than that, look, there was a couple of, I thought Ben Miller had a really good game in terms of individual performances. I thought he did extremely well on Aaron Norton, who notoriously causes us a lot of headaches. And then the one moment he was on Darcy, he prevented him from taking a mark. I know he conceded another one against Darcy not long after, but overall, I think Ben Miller had a really, really good game. I thought Vlosten had another really good game as well. 28 disposals, 7 marks. Teams are really doing their best to try and make sure he can't be freed up. But he's had a really strong year. He's been really, really impressive. But outside of that, there wasn't too many else that had ultra impressive games, to be fair. Tom Brown did some okay things when he had the ball in hand, but just didn't get enough of it. You could tell Nank was fighting his guts out, as always, which we always appreciate. But yeah, overall, not a flash game, and plenty to have to work on and think about. You'd like to think there'll be some type of changes. I still think there's something to be said about structurally how we line up. And I'll be really interested to see what they do with Jasper Elga this week. I'll be really disappointed if we drop him, because they literally set him up to fail by making him sub in a game that was going to turn out like this. So I hope they give him a fair crack next week and he starts and he can actually get involved in the game when it's still hot and on the line and have a meaningful impact. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But otherwise, let us know what you think in the comments below of the game. What were there any highlights? What did you want to see improved on? Keen to hear all the thoughts and comments below. And we will be live tonight, 8:30 p.m. for the live weekly show to get everyone else's thoughts as we take a look towards the Adelaide game as well. But until the next one, go Tigers.